Not your average tabletop. Woohoo!
Welcome to Not Your
Oh
Average
my gosh, spoiler alert! We shouldn't even have the board out here! Close your eyes!
That's true.
This is a pretty big spoiler alert. I don't think we can avoid them.
I would agree with that.
So yes, we shouldn't even say what game this is about. We're giving our CHIPPI reviews on Pandemic Legacy Season 1. We just finished the campaign
Can't say a single word about it.
a little bit ago.
No. We did.
It's a campaign game. We can
Legacy
game.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. We just finished it tonight, and we are giving our thoughts on the game as a whole.
Yeah. Just doing a full review.
Yep. If you want like a recap of each month as we played through that, we released a video each month, kind of along the way. And so, if you want a recap for each one of those, you can go check that out and see how successful we were.
Right. Or we also, obviously those all have spoilers,
Yep.
or obviously you could just check out the final one and see what we ended up doing. We may bring it up here. I'm not sure what we'll all talk about. But yeah, so we'll just kind of give our thoughts on it. But yeah, if you want to check out and kind of listen along with some of the months, those are out there for you for your watching pleasure.
Yes.
But yeah, so yeah, getting right into the CHIPPI rating that we'll be using here. We start with core mechanisms.
Yes.
And this one is one, if you've played base Pandemic, you're using a lot of that same stuff.
Yeah.
I would say. So I'm coming with a 9 here because I think in the base one I would have rated it a little lower than this, but there's just things that are added throughout the game that just add a few more interesting options. But I think the whole, all the mechanisms of the game just flow so smoothly.
Yep.
They keep the game extremely quick. And this one, I think it just works really great. You're just kind of going out on the board and clearing cubes as quickly as you can, and kind of completing a few of your goals in this particular one. It's a little bit different if you're just playing base game Pandemic as to what you're trying to do. This one just kind of adds a few more things that you have to kind of complete to win the game versus losing the game. Kind of the losing conditions are pretty similar to base Pandemic.
Yeah. I like base Pandemic a bit more than you do. So that's already probably a higher rating. I gave this a 10 out of 10, just because I do love that core system, just kind of the puzzliness of it and trying to get from point A to point B in your 4 allotted actions each turn.
Right.
Just love that, and the infection system that they have. And in the Legacy, I think one thing I can pretty safely talk about is the panic level for the cities. It is printed directly on the board, so I think we can do that. It's kind of each time that a city would outbreak, when you'd place the 4th cube, you'd upgrade the panic level all the way from 1 to 5 for how many times it has outbreaked in the Legacy, the campaign.
Right.
So just from game to game, you have these hot spots that are just harder to navigate and harder to get into, and just more dangerous. I just really, really loved that aspect of the game. Just the permanent parts of the Legacy, I think, were handled great.
I would agree, and I think that's what really brings this game up at least one score for me, because it's already a really clean system, and then those couple things, especially that panic level is a really cool one, and it really makes it feel like you're kind of progressing throughout a year's worth of time, which is kind of what the game takes place over.
Yeah, it just gives you another thing, even if you're not worried, if it's like near the end of the game and the outbreaks are not a threat, you're probably going to win, even if you do pop a few of them.
Right.
In this mostly base game Pandemic, you're like, oh, I don't care if that explodes. But here, it's like, that could come into play
later
in future games, so you really still have to think about that.
Yeah, think of the long-term effects. So, I do like that part about this a lot. But then we'll get into the history. So the H, so we have played this at least 10 times. That's kind of the max we'll use. We ended up playing, I don't know how many total games. But you can play up to 24, otherwise a minimum of 12. I think we played somewhere in the middle, probably.
17 games.
17 games, so.
Yep.
We got got that many games of it played,
Yep.
and then we'll go into investment.
Investment. Base game Pandemic. It's very easy to set up. Very quick, snappy game. Like you said, the turns are just so quick. So that's pretty high. But it's a legacy campaign game, so the investment is quite a bit to say you're going to. I mean, you don't have to. You could switch out players. We probably could have added more players, even a third player
Right.
or whatever, because it adjusts. But to just have that, and preferably want to play those pretty close to each other, which we did not do very often because we started in
August
August
of
of 2021, and we are just finishing this. We're filming this. It's not in December. Surprise. This is November of 2022. So over a year, and there's definitely times where we forgot some things that were happening.
Yeah. I would say it would be typically we'd play maybe a few months, 2 or 3 months,
Yep.
and then we wouldn't play again for I don't know, several months in between,
yep.
and then get back to it for another month or two, and then. Yeah. So yeah, I would say that this one, you should have at least a core group of a couple people
Yeah.
That are going to be able to play. And I would say, looking back on it, I think I would have preferred getting it in probably a 6-month period at most.
Yeah, versus
maybe even quicker.
a whole year. Yeah,
Right.
Yep. So I ended up giving this 7.5 just because it does add quite a few things, and like your action cards, instead of just like one card like base game, it adds 2 additional throughout the campaign of different types of actions you can take. I try not to spoil all the individual ones, but there's a lot of things to remember. And I know we forgot about a few of them, and then some storyline bits I could see forgetting as well. So I just think that there were just a few times where it's kind of like, okay, go check like our videos and what we talked about in the previous month, a kind of recap.
Right.
So they were just as informative to us as they hopefully are to you.
Right.
So I don't know, that just bumped it a little bit. But obviously if you play it without such a break, that fixes that problem.
Yeah.
Because when we do play it back to back, it's easy to pick up.
Yeah, I guess I hadn't really thought of that when I did investment, because I'm coming in with actually a 9.5. Because that is definitely something to take into consideration. And yeah, that probably would have knocked mine down a little bit more because we did play it over that long period, and it would have been better over a short period. But then at the same time, I think the other thing that really did keep it down for me, the only other thing that I thought of was kind of the investment of kind of once you're done with the games and you're kind of done with it.
Yeah.
You're not going to probably play it again. I suppose you could, but you're going to know things.
Yeah.
So I
Could play on the board, just like base Pandemic with the board. It is slightly different
maybe,
from
but-
base game Pandemic,
Yeah,
so
I
I'll give
don't
it
know.
a try. But we'll see.
I don't know. I think there's no. To me, there's no real game, but I think the experience that you get out of what you get from this box is really amazing. It's a really good story. It's definitely worth playing if you're looking for a legacy game to try. Because I think it's also one that I think if you did play it close, you could probably even play this over an extended weekend and get it done.
Yeah, I think
Maybe
so.
even a day if you were really just only focusing on playing this, because games of Pandemic are really snappy. So that is something I think that keeps that up for me. Kind of the investment never feels like, okay, now we're into hour 2 of Pandemic and of this game, and it's dragging on. It's never ever like that in Pandemic. So I think that's what bumped it so high for me, because I hadn't really thought about
I think that's
that part,
just because I've kind of been comparing it when I was looking at this like to the other Pandemic and kind of seeing where the numbers should be, and that was kind of one of the biggest things that felt different in that where that one seems like, oh, just pick up Pandemic, set it up and play it, and this one just has had that. Obviously it's a different deal.
That's fair.
But
So then we get into the first P of presentation. And for this one, I'm coming in with a 9. I think it's pretty solid. It has a lot of the similar components to just normal Pandemic. Not my overall most favorite look, and it's a solid looking board, it looks like kind of some of those video games where you have the virus kind
yep.
of spreading around, or it
Kinda
shows
like all
kind
the
of
cities
how
and-
things would move and get worse and worse. So it does have a look like that, or like you're I don't know, in some sort of CIA or something, and you're kind of seeing it spread on that's kind of the look the board has, but that's the same as Pandemic kind of.
Yeah.
And the cubes are the same, but just a few other items, one in particular that I found really, really cool that kicked it up a little bit.
Didn't think that would show up in the game. That type of item would show up in the game, but it did, and
either.
it was pretty cool.
But
Pretty
yeah,
cool.
and then just kind of all the stuff was pretty cool. And there's stickers in the game that you'll be putting on the rule book and on the board, and then there's little I don't know what you'd call it, little cardboard pieces that you pop open.
Yep.
I think all of those worked really solid. Everything flowed. I didn't really notice any like misprints on anything or anything. So I think for being a legacy game, all of that stuff was really clean. It all worked. Some stickers kind of get a little loose and peel off. That knocked it down a little bit for me.
Yep.
And the fact that it just not my overall favorite board, but I think for what it is, it's pretty solid, and the stickers are all pretty cool, and they all make sense, especially the ones on the board. I think so.
Yep.
It makes it really pretty clean.
Yeah, could probably be a little higher for mine. I had it at an 8.25. I like the look of the Pandemic board, and I think I probably like the look of this one over base game Pandemic. It's bigger, obviously.
Yeah, I like that.
And I enjoy that. And like you said, all the stickers were really nice. But I would say definitely near the end, some of the stickers seemed like they weren't really sticking. Bigger stickers, and some of them kind of went over creases in the folds in the boards. I mean, I could have placed them somewhere else, but just kind of in the way that, just kind of following the pattern the way I've been placing the stickers for other cities. Those ones ended up being on creases, and just kind of noticed a few of those sliding, and that's kind of could be a big deal in this game. Just kind of finding some loose stickers as well. Just found one just like in the rule book randomly, like that's not supposed to go in the rule book. I'm like, okay, it's probably one that I accidentally took off and didn't actually place. So my fault, but still, just slightly concerning at times.
That's true.
But yeah, I would say the only other thing would just be never really found a good sorting way for all the cards and all the different things. We just had a huge stack of kind of upgrades and negative effects and the characters, and could have sorted it well, but we just never really did that. Plus, with the long time between games, just knowing exactly what you should pull out for this game and what's in effect. When maybe you didn't take the most care in setting it up last time when you packed it up. Me putting that, I wasn't looking at you.
No, but
just that I feel like it could have been a little better in the card sorting department.
That's true. Yeah, the insert. I mean, based on stuff in the box now, I don't know that there's really a better way to do it necessarily, but I would say you were usually the one setting it up, so I probably didn't notice this as much, but that was, I should have thought of that. That would probably knock this down a little bit for me as well. Because, the sorting of it was not the greatest, kind of on us a little bit. But, I felt like all of the other smaller pieces we just put in one bag. I guess we could have moved them out, but it was already, by the time we were getting some of these items out of the different boxes, I guess we could have taken the box out of out of here possibly, but we did not do that. I guess then there would have been room, but otherwise we didn't really have much room in there outside of this one thing, so they pretty much all had to be in that one bag. So, but
overall, still great and great looking game, I think. So on to preference, which Pandemic is very high in my all-time rankings list. This Pandemic Legacy Season 1 even made your top 50, so I'm interested in where you put this. But I have this a preference of 10. I just absolutely love the core Pandemic system, and this definitely does not hurt it, and it does add quite a bit to it. And just with the storyline that you create, I would say is phenomenal, and just following your characters, which one of our favorites was Gus Smiley here that we used in quite a few games, and he had some really awesome moments, and just seeing that and building those characters and building those stories was just really awesome. Loved it.
Yeah, I feel like part of probably this whole legacy to really make it work is kind of almost getting into the story itself. If you can create a story with it, because there is pieces of story that are written on here, but kind of going above and beyond that as to, kind of adding your own little things just adds to the whole experience. And I'm coming in with a 9 on this one. Pandemic-based game, which, like I've said, is pretty similar to what a lot of is happening here. It's not my favorite, but it's not my least favorite. It's probably a little above average for me. So this one is actually a decent amount higher than that one. I would say probably a point and a half to 2 points higher. And I really love the whole legacy experience of it. Going through the whole story, it was just really enjoyable. And making specific characters and kind of creating. If you go back and watch through all of our things, we find out someone was maybe a traitor, and looking at what we had done, it all actually made a lot of sense.
It really did.
So it was really cool how that just happened to play out, because it wasn't our choice either as to who was the traitor. It was something based on the cards. And
just like multiple other things.
Interesting how it worked out.
Pointed to that. It just made sense. It's not like those other things caused it to be that person.
Right. That didn't cause it either.
It just worked out very, very awesomely.
So that was pretty awesome.
I think that kind of also ties into the it factor for me, just kind of the storyline. And I give this a 10. I think it's if you're
10 as well.
If you're a good campaign legacy game, I think the it factor is going to be a 10, really good score, probably 10 anytime.
I would agree.
Me. It's pretty great. And although I would say first half of the game, like the first few months, we dominated. We did really well, and we didn't really even hurt much out on the board.
That's true.
So there was a time, a few months in, where I was like, if it just continues like this and we do too well, it factor is probably not going to be very high. It's probably not going to be that great. It would be a disappointment, I would have said, for sure, if it kind of kept along there.
It felt too easy.
But then it feels like we took like a break, came back and played some more, and just got beat up quite a bit, and it never really slowed down from there.
Right.
There were just more huge things being added to the game and changed, and from there on, it was just epic.
Yeah, I 100% agree. That's why I've got a 10 as well. I think it ended up being a great story, because I will agree that I think we ended up winning those first few games very easily. Kind of had a few things go our way. Then things ramped up a bit in various different ways. Like you said, they started adding more and more things to kind of what you had to do. But still, it didn't feel like it was overly complicated, which was nice. It was one of those that we also completed Charterstone earlier this year, and it kind of felt similar to that, where you're kind of adding new things kind of throughout that legacy campaign as well. But neither one, I think, ever felt like it was getting to like, oh my gosh, now there's way too much to think about.
Oh, no.
But like you said, I think both this one and that one could suffer if you do, like us, potentially could suffer if you're skipping months in between plays of it. That hurts it. But that's more of an us problem than the game's problem. The game's not telling you, now I'll set this down for 2 months and then come back to it. So it's not the game's problem at all. So it's a solid it factor. Which gives me a total score of a 9.2.
This brings me to a total score of a 9.2.
So pretty solid scores. It's one, like, unlike other games, is a little bit harder, I think, to kind of rate, and I'm curious as to my own list. I don't know. I think next year we'll probably do a top 60, maybe. It was recommended. There was kind of a recommendation by a huge fan.
Yes. A pretty loyal
viewer.
fan.
Yes.
Yep.
And I thought that sounded like actually an amazing idea. So, but I don't know, even though this one is rated pretty high for me, very high for me, I don't know if it'll make it on there. It's so hard because it's a game that now I know I will likely never play again. Maybe it would present itself and I would, but I just, at least for a while, probably won't play this one, but could play, the other legacy ones, Season 2 and Season 0, because this is the first one of the pandemic that we played. It's an amazing game, but I just kind of wonder, 2 years or even a year from now, okay, now haven't played it in a year.
The memory of it going to be enough.
Right. That's the tough thing for legacy games, I think.
Yeah, I think if you would group it as just Pandemic Legacy, and if you did continue to eventually go back to Season 2, Season 0, I think it could definitely stay in there if those do deliver the same awesome experience. But I would think this would probably fall off your list, and base Pandemic's probably not going to take its spot in the meantime.
Right.
For me, I think that I probably just pretty much group the whole Pandemic series together in my mind, because I just love the core system so much that in my future ratings and rankings, I probably am just going to group this together. I may have even done that, I forget, in our top 50 this year. I think I did. But I think I'm probably just going to continue to do that, just because it is really hard to judge a kind of one-off experience, and really rate that against other games that you can just keep going back to. So it's nice that there is a version of this that I can just open up anytime and play.
Right. Yeah, that is a good thing. I guess if anyone's still watching, so now we've done Pandemic Legacy Season 1, Charterstone, and Clank Legacy. Acquisitions Incorporated. Which one would you suggest to someone that hasn't played any legacy games?
We might have to do a video on that.
Oh, that's true. Now he signed us up for another video. I should have never asked that question, but that's probably a good idea. So I would honestly say any of those three would be solid to check out. This one, especially if you really like the Pandemic system, this one is probably a good place to start. Or kind of if you like the Clank system, it's a good place to start. Charterstone,
it's a whole
different world,
thing,
but
so.
So that's Pandemic Legacy Season 1, and our review of that one. Both had pretty high scores on that.
Definitely recommend.
Definitely highly recommend from the Nacho.
We need to get some sort of stamp that we can put on these covers. I know the publishers are just asking for it.
They're asking for it. They're like, we don't have enough. Who cares about that Dice Tower seal? We want this one. Very few games are going to have this. But we hope that you'll kind of check out some of our other videos. Maybe you'll check out if you haven't watched the playthroughs of January, well, not playthrough, but
the recaps
of January through December. We hope to see you on those ones. But otherwise, as always, don't forget to
keep on nibbling
on our content.